Hello and namaste. My name is Tim Halloran. This is a weekly astrology forecast. Today is December 14th. It's a Saturday. The sun's moving towards the end of Sagittarius, going to enter Capricorn next Saturday on the winter solstice. The moon is in Gemini, where she'll remain through Tuesday when there's a full moon around 4 a.m. Then she'll move into Cancer, staying there until Thursday, where she'll enter Leo. She'll be in Leo during the winter solstice, and then on Sunday she'll move into Virgo. There is a whole lot happening this week, and it's getting super busy, super fast-paced. It is very intense. The word intense is not an exaggeration of the energy we're feeling right now. We are in a lot of tension. There is a grand kite forming by the end of this month. This is the most tense aspect in astrology. It's going to be building up until that point around Christmas time, New Year, and then fading out into January. Wherever there is a great amount of tension, there is always a great amount of potential. There is a whole lot we can do in a very little amount of time right now. So yeah, it's intense, it's important, it's serious, and there's a whole lot of business we're getting done right now. There's a whole lot of fire happening. So I apologize that the video is coming out a little late this week. I have to remain very flexible. You have to remain very flexible. We all have to be in the right space to be able to perform the work that we need to. So I can't guarantee I'm going to know exactly when these reports are going to come out, but I'm going to try to do it every week so we can address the energy. So let's get right to it. A lot of things to discuss in this report. So it's coming out a little later this week, but this last week I heard a lot of people saying that they were feeling the tension, and really the tension of this last week, it's really this week's, today's Saturday, is the build-up into this week and into the next week. I always feel that the anticipation towards a big event or a big climax of energy is almost more difficult than being in it itself, because we're anxious, we're anticipating, we're feeling that build up. It's like taking the roller coaster to the very top. You know, once you get over that first hill, it's all good, but we're climbing right now, and so we can feel it, and it's a little intimidating sometimes. But that being said, there's so much happening that is really good. There's so much changes that we can make right now that it's going to really affect us for the rest of our lives. That's what the winter solstice is about. It's about setting the cycle for the next year. It's about death and rebirth, and we are in a very critical point in our entire lives right now on this planet. Okay, so Tuesday there's a full moon in Gemini. Also on Tuesday, Uranus is turning direct. He's been retrograde for a long time, and now he's turning direct on the day of the Gemini full moon, which is awesome. This is setting the energy for this week. It's setting the energy of the months to come. But really, Uranus turning direct is, we have been exploring and discovering our true inner higher self. Uranus is the upper world. It is the higher self. It's really far out. You know, it's super ahead of its time. And we've been discovering this part of ourself by going within. And now there's this huge buildup of energy. There's big switches happening. There's death and rebirth, and this Uranus is starting to move outward now. We're discovering our inner creative genius, and now we're going to be implementing it on the outside. And this full moon in Gemini, Gemini is the trickster. Gemini is Coyote, Kokapelli, Krishna. He's the magician. That's going to be the energy of this week, leading us into the winter solstice, which is of course a very magic time, a time of death and rebirth, a time of miracles, a time of discovering the new and letting go of the old. And I'm going to try to give some recommendation on how to best use this energy for our highest potential, rather than misleading it or getting misdirected in a sort of off of the mark direction. Okay, this Saturday is the solstice. It's exact at 12:11 p.m. That's when the sun moves from Sagittarius into Capricorn. And then next Tuesday, Mercury will follow the sun into Capricorn. This is the low point of the sun's elliptical movement. This is the sun has died, right? The sun dies and then is risen. This is that point of death and then being risen. It is very critical, very important time. There is so much creative energy. And what is creative energy? Creative energy is always incorporating this death and rebirth. Wherever there is creation, there is always death. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. So we're taking the old energy and we're mutating it. This is not a literal death the way we have been conditioned to believe it, where we die and we lose something forever. No, this is taking what no longer serves us and mutating it into what we want it to be. That being said, I'm going to talk about using the solstice to manifest the year to come, and how to not be misdirected with positive manifestation that gets too skewed up by our minds and our individual egos. And sometimes our own manifestation limits what's actually happening, which can be so much bigger, so much greater than the small thoughts, the small ideas, the little plans that we have for ourselves. No, the plans that are forming right now are big plans. They are sort of out of our league plans are going on, and we can't so much limit what's going to happen to our ideas of what's going to happen, our predictions, It's like 2012 winter solstice. Everybody had all these ideas of what was going to happen. The sky was going to be decorated with UFOs. The energy was going to suddenly shift in 1 second's notice, and everything was going to be different, and nothing was going to be the same from that point on. And a lot of people were very disappointed with what actually happened, because that's not how the universe works. And the more people were trying to define what was going to happen on 2012, the more they got away from what is actually happening. That being said, this is a very important time. This is a very magical time. This is a time of really making some important discoveries. So let me get to the core of it. What is happening in the grand scheme of things? And in my reports, in my astrology, I focus more personally, more subjectively. I don't focus so much on events that are happening in the collective. I don't know. Those things are always a reflection of what's happening inwardly, so I focus on what's happening inwardly. What is happening inwardly is we are in this death and rebirth process, but what's happening is our old ideas, our own mental constructions that are very deeply conditioned, very much a deep part of our construct of reality, has been limited by programs, by ideas, by imprisoning energies that have been placed on us by our culture, by the school system, everything. But the thing is we don't know how deep these things go until we really reach the bottom. And this is what the winter solstice is about. It is about descending. We are descending to the underworld, which is fascinating that Uranus is turning direct now, because as we descend to the underworld, this is how we are permitted. This is the actual process of transformation. If we do not allow ourselves to descend into the underworld, if we can't allow ourselves to discover and uncover and get help and assistance in realizing the depth of our own restrictiveness that we have been conditioned to put on ourselves. I need this. I have to be this way. I have to please this person. I have to become this person. I have to live life this way. I can't do this. There's so many things. We are so much more unlimited in our core truth than we actually allow ourselves to be in because of all of these restrictions. The government, the money, the financial freedom is not there. We don't believe that we can create what we want to unless we have the funds, and nobody does because it's all been stolen from us. So we have been conditioned to believe. The truth is, the only thing that's keeping us from our potential is now ourselves. And no, it's not our faults for having all these conditionings, because these conditionings were sort of placed on us, but now it is up to us to descend into them, investigate the nasty nasties, find out what needs to die. Something in us needs to die. Something in us is restricting us from being, from doing what we actually want to be and what we actually want to do. So that being said, Venus changing direction on the day of the solstice, also super relevant for this upcoming year. As I've been talking about in the last two reports, Venus being in Capricorn is we are getting serious about our relationships. We are being serious about love. We're being serious about the new paradigm. So it's not just our intimate personal relationships, boyfriend, girlfriend, although this is certainly a part of it. We are taking things to the next level. So when Venus entered Capricorn, we realized that we wanted things to be taken to the next level. We wanted to be serious. And what happens sometimes, I feel, is when we have a realization that we truly want to go in a direction, we truly desire something, we truly do want to take things to the next level, well, we don't get there overnight, do we? What happens is we realize that we want to take things to the next level, we want to go deeper, we want to get more intimate, we want to open our hearts more. Then things start to clear out. Things start to pave the way for that to happen, but it does not happen instantly. So, relationships getting more serious, getting more deep, we're working more towards them, we're channeling more energy into our relationships, our interpersonal relationships, our friendships, our lovers, our family. Now that Venus is turning retrograde on the solstice, it's saying, time to clear out. You want this? We all know that we want this. We've had the realization that we want this. Now it's time to get rid. It's time to go back and discover what we need to get rid of now that's preventing us from doing this. You know, you want to take things to the next level. You want to live in a palace. You have to clean out the old house, pack up and move. And that's what we're in the process of doing. That's why it's very intense. It's not comfortable. It's not comfortable when you have all of your things in boxes and huge piles all around the room before you move your location. If you're someone who's moved a bunch of times, you know it's never fun. That's what we're doing energetically and dimensionally right now, and it's a big deal. We're packing up. We're seeing these big piles of stuff, and it feels really messy. It doesn't feel simple. You know, it's not easy. It's not comfortable. It's a little scary, you know. There's a lot of trust involved. You know, is everything going to get where we need to be? Am I going to lose something? We have to trust the process itself, you know. We've got to trust the movers, right? Yeah, it's a good comparison and not at the same time. But we do have to trust the people that are helping us with this transition a lot. And that being said, I want to talk about the solstice and manifestation time. The solstice, as we know, is a time of planting a seed, because we're descending into the underworld and we plant the seed and then we grow up. Positive manifestation can be so limiting, and so many of the people that I see pushing and advocating this positive manifestation don't know how to do it correctly. It's super, super important when we are manifesting this new paradigm that we do not know what it is, that we do not know exactly what we want. We can feel what we want. We have the desires in our hearts, yeah? We might have the visions, and you know, we do have some ideas. But my recommendation for the solstice, my recommendation for channeling, for putting energy into this manifestation is make it really deep. Make it a feeling, love, all-embraciveness, inclusiveness, freedom, liberation, explosive freedom. We want to get out of our chains. Okay? This is different from asking specifics. I want this job. I want this paycheck. I want this to happen this way. Because the more we limit ourselves to very particular, mundane manifestations, well, we're not allowing the universe to take us somewhere that may have much greater depth than we are expecting. And this is what Uranus really is. And Uranus turning direct is we have been discovering our inner depth. How our higher self is so much more powerful, is so much more wise, is so much more in tune than we even ever believed or even previously trusted ourselves to be in connection with something that wise and high, you know? And it's saying, you know, trust yourself, trust this higher self, tune into this higher self and let this higher self start pouring out, okay? And this higher self isn't the same as the little mundane mind, the little ego life. No, this higher self has existed through all of your lifetimes. This higher self doesn't care about your little mundane paychecks and your job and, you know, the little tiny details, you know. No. We are so much deeper than that. Our desires are so much deeper than that. It's about tuning into these really deep things, okay? And then with this cardinal grand kite forming towards the end of this month, Christmas time, there's a lot of tension building up towards Christmas time. This happens every year. Everyone's freaked out about money. Everyone needs to get presents. Christmas time's always magical though. The magic is here. The magic is coming, even with all this tension. And that's what this full moon in Gemini is. It's Krishna. He always tricks us. He tricks us out of love. He tricks us out of love because he believes, he makes us be deceived, really, that we are something smaller and lesser than we actually are. And all this is happening. And this grand kite now is between Mars opposite Uranus, Mars in Libra, everybody else, versus Uranus in Aries, the individual genius, square to Pluto opposite Jupiter and Lilith. And for New Year's, there's going to be a stellium with that Pluto in Capricorn, and it's going to be the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Moon, and Pluto all entering this grand kite formation. It's intense. It is intense. And that means that there's a lot of friction. It's happening like this. It's building up, it's building up, it's building up, it's building up. And we just have to be willing to trust. We have to be flexible. We have to allow things to change. We have to allow ourselves to die. And this death is the surrender, it is the trusting. And to really be able to access this trust, to have this surrender, we have to be fearless. And the way to be fearless is to confront our fears. So maybe a really nice summary way of looking at this whole collected energy of this month, of this build up towards the end of the month, is we are looking at what we desire as we simultaneously see what we are most afraid of. The two are connected, the two are working together, and as we confront those fears, we acknowledge those fears, we dive into those fears, we go into the underworld, we allow ourselves to feel uncomfortable, we allow ourselves to see things that we don't necessarily want to see. We are given the power, the strength, the propulsion to carry us to our goals. And there is so much stuff in the underworld. This means that there is so much that is going to propel us out. Okay? This is the rumbling of the volcano before the eruption. We have to descend into that frictionless tumultuousness. You know, we have to allow ourselves to feel, oh my God, I really want to get out of here, before we can make our escape. Okay, so it's about surrendering, it's about prayer, it's about trusting. Allow yourselves to feel where you want to get out of, because it's like this old skin is still hanging on to us and we're just waiting to rip it off. You know, we're taking the band-aid off, you know, and you know, watching the snake wriggle out of that old snake skin, it's probably not the most comfortable thing in the world, but what keeps that snake going is, I want to get out of here. I want to be in my new, fresh skin, and then I can feel the wind on me. I'll be able to taste and smell on a whole new level. It'll feel like I'm reborn. It'll feel like I'm light. It'll feel like I am who I really am, who I was meant to be, who I always knew I was really deep down. That's where we're heading. That's where we're going together. So if you have any questions on that, you can email me. I can give you a full moon chart this Tuesday. I can look at your winter solstice chart to see if you have any questions on specifics or things like that. But that being said, trust yourself, trust your feelings, trust your direction. It's very strong right now. The messages are very strong right now, and this is all in our favor. Very, very much so. So hang in there. If you're feeling intense, if you're feeling a little under the weather, just know that it's all good. You know, it's not, you're not alone. And you know, the more you allow yourselves to feel this, you know, to feel these things, the further you give yourself permission to get through them permanently. That way you won't have to keep going back, you know. The more you pretend that that stuff isn't there, you're sitting in it actually. So let's confront this, let's get this stuff over with, and then we're getting on with it. We're manifesting what we want, we're building our new paradigm, we're building our new lives in love. My name is Tim Halloran. Namaste.